We found a trail marker with our names carved into it. It stood at a junction that shouldn't have existed. A narrow post of weather-silvered wood, sunk deep into the soil as if it had grown there. Fog pooled around its base, dense and low, rising and falling in slow, deliberate breaths. When I brushed the moisture from my glasses and leaned closer, the letters sharpened into focus. Adam, Leah, Noah. The carvings were not fresh. They were old, the grooves rounded by years of rain and softened by moss. Lichen traced the edges of each letter as if trying to claim them. Whoever had carved these names had done so with patience, intention, and time we couldn't account for. Noah laughed too loudly. The sound struck the fog and came back wrong, stretched thin and slightly delayed. Okay, very funny. Which one of you did this? Leah didn't answer. She stepped closer, fingers hovering just above the wood, as if she could feel heat radiating from it. This trail wasn't here before, she said. We would have noticed a marker like this. The forest pressed in around us, immense and ancient. Trunks rose thick and dark, bark ridged like old scars. The canopy vanished into gray above, branches dissolving into geometry that hurt to look at too long. There was no wind, no birdsong. Only a distant, rhythmic dripping with no visible source, like water falling somewhere deep underground. I tried to remember when we'd decided to take this route. The memory slid away the moment I reached for it. The trailhead behind us. There had been a sign, I was sure of it. I turned to check. There was nothing. Fog filled the space where the path should have been, trees arranged differently now, their spacing subtly wrong. A fallen log lay across the ground that I would have sworn wasn't there a minute ago. The forest felt adjusted. Leah saw my face and nodded once. It moved, she said quietly. Noah shook his head, hands clenched into fists. Forests don't move. We're just turned around. The marker creaked. The sound came from within the wood, a slow flexing strain. One pointing arm rotated a few degrees, then the other until both directed us down the same narrow trail. The opposite path blurred, its edges smearing into fog until it no longer felt like a real option. Leah swallowed. It's guiding us. We walked because staying felt worse, like refusing would draw attention. As we followed the path, the forest responded. Trees leaned inward, trunks subtly rotating, sealing the way behind us. Roots surfaced beneath the soil, slick and black, then sank again once we passed. The fog breathed heavier now, brushing our legs, sliding along our arms like something curious. Whispers threaded through it. Not words, but the suggestion of them, shaping our names without sound. Noah kept checking his phone, his watch. Time's wrong, he muttered. It keeps skipping. I swear it was daylight an hour ago. I couldn't remember the drive anymore. Just flashes, headlights, trees, then fog. When I tried to picture home, the image came apart, details dissolving before I could hold them. The trail marker appeared again. Same wood, same moss, same names. Only now the letters were deeper, sharper. Fresh sap glistened inside the grooves, dark and wet, catching the dim light. Leah stared at it, something like wonder creeping into her expression. It's not showing us the way, she said. It's recording us. Noah backed away. Nope. We leave. Right now. He stepped off the trail. The forest reacted instantly. The ground pitched beneath him, roots surging up and snaring his ankle. He fell hard, the sound swallowed before it could echo. Trees groaned, trunks grinding against one another as the space rearranged itself. Fog rushed in where he'd stepped, thick and aggressive, filling the gap like poured cement. He tore free, breathing hard, eyes wild. It doesn't want us to choose. Leah didn't look scared anymore. Her gaze stayed fixed on the marker. What if it already chose for us? The wood darkened. Beneath the surface, growth rings shifted subtly, spiraling inward. Shadows gathered at the base, stretching in angles that didn't match any light source. Within them, I glimpsed tall, branching shapes, suggestions of limbs and antlers and faces that resolved back into trees when I blinked. Understanding came slowly, settling like cold soil in my chest. This forest wasn't a place, it was an archive. Names, memories, identities. Trails weren't paths through land, but through people. Each marker a record of someone who had arrived thinking they were passing through. Leah stepped closer. Her name pulsed faintly, sap welling as if the wood had a heartbeat. "I don't think I'm supposed to leave," she said softly. "I think this is where I fit." Noah grabbed her arm. "Leah, don't." Fog surged between them, thick and sudden. When it thinned, Noah was gone. No sound, no struggle, just absence, and the trail narrowed as if it had always been that way. My name on the marker deepened. Leah placed her hand against the wood. Her fingers sank slightly into softened grain. Shadows wrapped around her shape, aligning her silhouette with the trees beyond. When she turned back to me, her features were already blurring, edges dissolving into bark and shadow. "It remembers us better than we remember ourselves," she said. Then she stepped forward and unfolded into the forest's geometry. Her body stretching into trunk and branch, her name settling permanently into the sign. I am alone now, standing before the marker as the fog breathes around me. My name is almost finished carving itself, letters forming without a blade. I can feel memories loosening, becoming rings, becoming wood. The trail points only one way, and the forest is patient. The forest swallowed our GPS signal, and then the device showed movement around us. It happened gradually, a creeping distortion I almost didn't notice. At first, the dots representing our position on the tiny screen jittered, snapping north and south in microbursts. Then the device flashed no signal with a cold, white insistence. I shook it in my hand. A soft beep protested, as if the forest itself had whispered against it. "Probably just interference," said Max, peering over my shoulder. His voice carried too loudly, bouncing off the misted trunks. "Solar flares, trees, whatever. We'll get it back." The fog had thickened around us, rolling between the trunks like smoke. It smelled damp and metallic, wet leaves and rot layered beneath a sweetness that clung to the back of the throat. Every sound was muted or delayed. When I dropped a pebble onto the trail, the tap returned a heartbeat later, stretched and hollow. I watched the GPS screen as we walked. The blue dot that represented me began twitching on its own, drifting a few meters left, then right, as if something were nudging it. Then another dot appeared, a small red one, that circled us at a slow, steady pace. We were alone. The mist made it impossible to see further than a few feet. "Someone's following us," Max whispered, but his gaze flitted behind him, darting nervously between tree trunks that weren't supposed to move. I shook my head. No one was there. The forest pressed close, patient, its canopy lost in gray geometry. "Trees are shifting," I said. "Look at those roots. Didn't that one just rise?" Max laughed, too sharp, too forced. "Yeah, right. Roots move? Really?" We hadn't gone more than 50 meters when the GPS red dot doubled, then tripled until 3 or maybe 4. Dots moved around us in tight, impossible arcs. Their paths never intersected ours, never collided. The device made a quiet hum, the screen flickering as though strained. Leah stayed silent. She had been quiet for hours, eyes fixed on the fog. I could feel her tension, a low vibration, threading through the air. "It's showing us the forest," she said finally. Her words hung, uncomfortably accurate. The path twisted beneath our boots, subtly, so that every turn we took seemed wrong in retrospect. Landmarks rearranged themselves. A moss-covered stump that should have been on the left appeared on the right. Fallen branches shifted their angle. The trail widened, narrowed, split, then merged again. I could feel the forest watching, patient, adjusting to us. We stopped to catch our breath. The GPS hummed, showing our blue at the center, surrounded by red dots orbiting. Each time we moved, the orbiting dots mirrored our steps, sometimes lagging, sometimes anticipating, and always adjusting, always present. "This isn't just a device malfunction," Leah whispered. "It's mapping us." I looked up and realized the fog was different above, denser in patches, thinner elsewhere, breathing in sync with our movements. The trunks leaned subtly, turning just enough to guide our eyes, our steps. Every sound was distorted. A branch cracking behind us echoed forward. Our voices bounced back stretched thin, like someone whispering them from another place entirely. Max's face was pale. "We're being catalogued?" "Yes," Leah said. "Tracked. By something older than the trees. Something that bends space to keep itself central." We pressed forward, uneasy, following the faint impression of a path that wasn't stable. The GPS showed a new red dot, close, too close, circling fast. I spun, staring into the fog, but there was nothing. Just trunks, roots, mist. A tree leaned toward us, a single branch brushing my arm. Its bark was warm, pulsing slightly. I recoiled. The GPS dots shifted, orbit tightening. The forest was alive, aware. Everything we felt, hesitation, panic, curiosity, was tracked, mirrored, responded to. We came to a clearing, roughly circular, though no measure of geometry felt right. Trees leaned inward at impossible angles. The fog hung thick, solid, almost curling and folding around us like fingers. The GPS dot at the center remained ours, but the red dots had multiplied. I tried to count them. They moved too fast, too fluid, splitting and merging, orbiting and hovering, like blood cells in some alien organism. Leah touched the earth with her hand. The soil shifted softly beneath her palm. "It's learning us," she said. "Every step we take, it catalogs, reshapes, directs." Max gritted his teeth. "We can fight it. Go off trail. Head back." I looked at him, but the trail we had been following was gone, absorbed into fog and shadow. Trees shifted subtly to block the way. Branches that had been behind us now loomed ahead. Roots curled over the ground like fingers. The GPS spun again, blue dot jumping, red dots adjusting. We ran. The mist closed in. Every step felt longer, the undergrowth thicker, the air heavier. The GPS wobbled violently, red dots orbiting tighter, almost spiraling, then slowing as if to bait us. My legs burned, lungs screamed. I glanced at Leah. Her eyes were wide, dark, and focused on the device rather than the path. Then I noticed it, something moving in the fog, just beyond perception. Shapes that should not have had form, elongated shadows, limbs that bent wrong. The faint glimmer of a face that resolved back into bark the moment I focused. Each time we turned, they were always at the edge of the screen, reflected in the GPS, circling, waiting. We reached another clearing, smaller, its center bare of vegetation. The GPS was spinning again, blue dot dead center, red dots orbiting, pulsating, multiplying. Leah whispered, "It's done with tracking. Now it's marking." I realized what she meant. The dots converged briefly, then shot outward, forming patterns that resembled letters or faces, too quickly to comprehend. The forest shivered around us. Trunks rotated. The fog rolled up in waves. Shadows stretched impossibly long and narrow. Time itself seemed elastic. A minute felt like an hour like 10 minutes. Max screamed, suddenly violently, and I turned. A shadow detached from the fog. A tall, branching silhouette, impossibly slender. It moved against the mist, folding in on itself, then stretching like ink in water. Max was gone when the fog thinned, swallowed into geometry that should not exist. Leah held my arm. Her fingers were trembling, almost merging with the mist. The GPS glowed faintly in her palm, red dots orbiting tighter than before. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The forest waited. The fog breathed. Every tree leaned slightly toward me, roots shifting beneath the soil. The GPS showed movement, red dots orbiting, converging, forming shapes I recognized, shapes I couldn't name. They were tracking me, cataloging me, reshaping the very space I occupied. I stumbled, tripped over roots that had shifted while I looked away. The fog rolled in, heavier now, dense with expectation. The blue dot on the screen wavered. The red dot spun faster, tighter, aligning with my chest. My breath came ragged. I understood. The forest did not hunt, did not chase. It absorbed, it recorded, it orchestrated. Our movements, our choices, our panic. They were notes in a melody older than memory, older than time. I tried to run, but the forest guided me back to the clearing. Fog and shadow folded around me. The GPS glowed white, red dots orbiting me endlessly. Shapes pressed at the edge of perception. Tall, branching silhouettes, faces that dissolved into bark, limbs that bent impossibly. I fell to my knees. Leah's eyes were the last thing I saw before the fog swallowed her. The GPS in my hand glowed. Red dots spun, aligning, spiraling inward, converging over me. And then everything froze. The forest waited. And in the mist, the red dots formed a circle, our pattern, our shape, our names, before the GPS went dark. I am here, alone yet not alone. The fog breathes around me. The roots shift beneath my feet. The GPS hums silently in my pocket, red dots orbiting in the void. The forest has learned me, and it is patient. It will wait for the next movement. It will wait for the next step. It will wait for me.